Welcome to the Week 7 Pickems of the VDL. This week I am joined by a gamer person.
Hello, hello.
And yeah, we're going to be going over the Shaymin division as always. And so we're starting off today with Shadow Knight versus Flupke, with Shadow Knight's Terras being Miss Magius with Ghost Electric Stellar and Bastiodon with Rock Flying and Fighting. And then Flupke as Reggie Draco with Dragon Steel Fairy and Chestnut with Grass Steel and Ghost. Now off rip, Chen Pao looks absolutely terrifying for Shadow Knight to deal with. Just
Yeah,
a demon.
absolutely. And it's funny that it is that way because Shadow Knight has a Sun team and Shin Pao's an Ice type, so it's kind of funny to think about that. But the more that you look at Shin Pao, the more it just destroys this team.
Yeah, I was doing some calcs against things like Lilligant and Venusaur, and if Flupke runs an Adamant Chen Pao, which he can more than afford to do, with a Life Orb, Ice Shard actually KOs Lilligant, and then has a 50% chance to KO Venusaur. If you put up Stealth Rocks, it's got a 100% chance to kill, or if you run Choice Band, it guarantee kills. And even like the same thing with like a Choice Scarf Staraptor. Grimmsnarl can't even try to status it because Chen Pao's a Dark type, so it's immune to Prankster. The two best checks are Torkoal, as you mentioned before we recorded, I guess I should say, and Bastiodon, if it has Terra'd. Pre-Terra, just dies to a Sacred Sword. It has Sturdy, so there is that,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Looking at Terra fighting Bastion, it's not even like awful. Like it's pretty bad into a lot of these Pokemon, but like for at least Shin Pao and like Iron Treads and stuff that just wants to hit it with an Earthquake, it doesn't even look that bad.
I definitely think that's what comes, at least for Shadow Knight's Terra Captain. I don't think Miss Magius really is all that good this week, especially, with things like Zoroark and Chen Pao being right there. So I highly doubt that comes. And then even Chestnut with Bulletproof to eat up Shadow Balls.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. But on Shadow Knight's side, like, as well, gouging fire at, like, +1 speed just tears.
Yeah, if it has that
If
sun
it can
up for
set up
Photosynthesis and with a Dragon Dance, it's scary. Still have to be careful of priority from Chen Pao, but if it runs Life Orb, which, like I said, it has to run to get the Ice Shard kill, like, Stealth Rocks will wear that down, so...
And honestly, I can see it happening too because Grimmsnarl's screens can actually do pretty good here.
Yeah, Flupke doesn't have like the best way to get rid of him. He could run Psychic Fangs on Chen Pao, but it's not really the greatest move like overall this week.
Either way, it wants to click its stabs or like Sacred Sword or something. It does not want to be clicking Psychic Fangs.
Yeah, I think the only other option really is, if something gets Brick Break, obviously that's there, but I think Galarian Weezing with Defog is like the only other option. So screens do look quite good here for Shadow Knight.
Yeah, I can expect to see that come. But on Flupke's side, like, there are so many threats on that team. Like, there's only one Fairy type, Reggie Drago's right there. And like, we got Hisuian Zoroark. Even Slowking does pretty good despite Venusaur and Lilligant being there.
I imagine Slowking will probably be like Fizdev to take on Gouging Fire, if I had to guess, because overall, like, Flupke struggles with that. I don't think Weezing wants to take +1.
Now that you mention it, Weezing wouldn't be too bad either with Neutralizing Gas.
Yeah, but even still, like, +1 Flare Blitz in the sun is gonna hurt.
That's true.
So, overall, though, I think Flupke is... like, unless Shadow Knight can find a good way to remove Chen Pao, like, early, whether it's, like, catching, something off guard with, like, a Yachi Berry on Lilligant or, something like that, I do think that the Chen Pao is just so offensively threatening that Shadow Knight's gonna struggle with it.
I absolutely agree. Like, this is a very, very hard matchup for Shadow Knight. It's doable, but it's very hard.
Next up, we have Kyle versus Legend Lamarcus. Kyle's Terras are Colossal with Rock, Water, Fairy, and Sceptile with Grass, Flying, and Fire. And then Legend has Articuno with Flying, Steel, Fighting, and Quagsire with Ground, Poison, and Fairy. This one is one of the most even matchups. Like, I couldn't really see anything that stuck out to me on either side.
Honestly, the first thing that stuck out to me was Iron Bundle. Like, it just hits everything so hard, super effectively, or just neutrally. There's nothing that doesn't take water and ice well.
Florges.
The Florges is there, but then you also have like Iron Moth hitting it with Poison Stab, and you could probably run like Iron Head Corviknight, and there's a lot of options like physically that it has that Florges really does not want to take
So
if it wants to consistently wall bundle.
Hydro Pump from a Heavy Duty Boots bundle does 32 to 39% to Florges, and then to kind of counter your Heatran, like what you're saying about Heatran, or sorry, about Iron Moth, is Heatran sits on that thing.
Yeah, Heatran does kind of sit on that thing. That's true.
So,
I really like Heatran. Honestly, it's pretty nice.
The one thing that stuck out to me on Kyle's team was Sceptile, actually. I think
see it.
if you get rid of Quagsire, or if it doesn't like Terra and it goes with Terra Articuno, that Sceptile can go crazy with Unburden and like probably Terra Fire, just so that you don't have to worry about Ice Shards from Weavile. Because both Terra Flying and Terra Grass are weak to that, so Terra Fire would probably be the best option. And I do think late game it can put in some really good work here.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see that happening.
Another thing with Terra Fire is I'm assuming it's going to be Flash Fire on Heatran to stop Iron Moth, but on the off chance that it's Flame Body, don't have to worry about that with Terra Fire Sceptile or even like Will-O-Wisp, things like that too.
Yeah, I can't really see like a consistent threat for Legend Lamarcus's team the more I look at it. Like, Latios is really good, but it has quite a few checks from from Kyle's team.
Kyle.
This is
go ahead. Sorry.
So this is just it's very hard. It looks very hard to break for Legend of Marcus. But I can see some things happening. But I think, like we're talking about with Florges, like it's just so good. I personally I love using Florges.
I was gonna say Kyle can run Gardevoir with Trick if he really wants to check that Florges, because like if you actually look, Gardevoir looks really good into Legends team. Psyshock, Moonblast, Focus Blast.
Yeah, I just took a second to kind of look at the teams again, and like the more that I looked at it, the more I thought Gardevoir just went in.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
It's really good.
Overall, I think I'm going to give this one to Kyle, but it's going to be a close battle either way, like a 1-0, 2-0, whoever wins it.
I think so.
Next up, we have Lord Arcanum versus Playz for Days, with Lord Arcanum's Terras being Armarouge with Psychic Grass Fairy and Rampardos with Rock Flying and Grass, and then Playz has Kilowattrel with Flying Water Ground and Sandaconda with Ground Fire and Fairy. Sneasler is terrifying. I'm just going to say it. It's scary. I did a few calcs. Sandaconda, max HP, max defense, impish nature, can take an adamant +2 close combat from Sneasler. I wouldn't recommend tearing. Obviously, if you tear a fairy, you're going to resist fighting better, but poison's going to bop you. Terra Fire really just doesn't do much overall, in my opinion here. I think Terra would be better used on Kilowattrel. Overquill also gets Intimidate to help with the Sneasler, but that thing still gets bopped by close combats. So, yeah, I don't know how he's going to deal with that, because all it has to run is SD, close combat, either Dire Claw or Gunk Shot, and then Acrobatics to hit Annihilate, which we'll say Annihilate is pretty threatening into Lord Arcanum's team if it wasn't as slow as it is.
Yeah, definitely. And as long as Psychic Terrain is up for Lord Arcanum's team, Annihilate can't really do much because it just gets hit by however many psychic, like, there's so many psychic moves that it can just get destroyed by. And I think it looks great, but if it can't be in a good position where it's not getting hit hard by any of those, like, psychic moves, like Expanding Force or something crazy like that, Plays for Days is gonna have a tough time either tanking these hits or just doing good damage. But that doesn't mean that they're not, like, they don't have an awful matchup. I can see some pretty good ways to stay in it, I guess. I mean, you got Arboliva to kind of get rid of the psychic terrain with your Seed Sower.
See, I just look at this matchup, and Lord Arcanum's team is just so offensive, and Playz' defensive checks just don't really do the best here. Like, something else I just thought of. Got to be careful bringing Intimidate on Quillfish because of Defiant on Zapdos.
Yeah.
Things like that. Like, I think that this is just the pieces that each player has. Arcanum's are just better. Like, overall.
Yeah.
They do so much better. Like, what you were saying with Annihilate, I don't really see anything that Annihilate can come in, comfortably take a hit to boost Rage Fist. Like, every hit that it's going to want to take this week, not that it even wants to take, let me rephrase that, every hit that it's going to take this week is going to be doing some massive damage to it. The only Pokemon that really can't, like, threaten it hugely is Rampardos, if it doesn't have Zen Headbutt, and Donphan. Everything else is actually a threat to Annihilate. Even though Annihilate's ghost typing is really good this week, the fighting type is actually what's holding it back the most here.
Definitely.
He can't use priority because of the psychic terrain.
I was just gonna say that.
Bullet Punch, a Cell Rock, none of that work. This is rough, man. At first, I was kind of like, oh, this isn't, like, too bad, but the more I look at it, I really think Lord Arcanum is going to win this one here.
Yeah, it's not looking too good. Now that I keep looking at it, it's like it's not looking good.
Lord Arcanum's team is, like, decently weak to water moves, so, like, I guess Volcanion can maybe, like, get 1 or 2 KOs, because it does have some decent natural bulk. I'm grasping at straws here, if you can't tell.
Yeah.
I'm trying, man. It's just rough. His team is just so much faster and so much more offensive. Even though Playz has such an offensive team already, it's just...
Yeah.
I don't want to call it slow, but, like, when you have a Sneasler and a Dragapult on the other team, you're slow.
Yeah. It's getting overpowered, like, pretty easily, and the only thing that it has to stop those, like, psychic expanding forces and the psychic surge boosted whatever, like Sneasler and all that, it's you got one dark type and then everything else just gets hit by Sneasler, and it's rough.
Yeah, and you can't even bring its best ability because of Zapdos, which is just even worse.
I can see it still coming if Sneasler or something has to get set up, but even then, like, it's not taking anything comfortably from Sneasler.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I think Lord Arcanum definitely has this matchup pretty easily.
Next up, we have Toob versus Carp Cranium. Toob Terras are Hisuian Electrode with Electric, Ice, and Flying, and then Houndstone with Ghost, Rock, Fairy, and then Carp has Minior with Flying, Ground, Grass, and Jolteon with Electric, Ice, and Water. Now, I want you to look at Vileplume into Carp's team, and just look at how much of a demon it is defensively.
Yeah, this thing just... it sits on so many things on Carp's team.
There's 3 things I don't think it can switch in on. It can't take Terra Ice from Jolteon, it can't take Acrobatics from Minior, and it don't like Incineroar. Everything else, this Vileplume just comes in, strength saps up, and just goes about its day.
one thing about Two Blueber's team that I'm seeing is Its speed is just so good against Carp Cranium's team. And yeah, it has Regieleki, but then Swampert is right there.
And Hisui and Electrode.
And Hisui and Electrode. And I'm going to mention Hisui and Electrode because like it just it does so good into this team.
Yeah, it just has to be careful of the Volt Absorb on Jolteon, but with Terra Ice, that's not a problem at all, because that'll
But
pop Flygon.
even then, if Rillaboom comes, it has grass boosted like Leaf Storms and stuff, and Jolteon is not taking that.
That's true. I hadn't even thought
It's
about that. Leaf
so
Storms,
frail.
yeah.
Yeah, and like I'd say Chloroblast, but that move doesn't it like half your HP too, so it's not
Yeah.
too good. But
Giga Drain.
Leaf Storm and like Volt Switch, even Giga Drain, right? Like just the electric and grass like core is, or like dual stab just hits everything so well.
I will say, if Flygon is able to get a Dragon Dance up this week, it's quite scary. Toob Vs really struggles with ground types. He has one immunity. That's it. No resists.
Yeah, and then that's Tornadus. I don't think it's gonna do too much to Flygon.
It would have to try to hit a Hurricane.
Yeah.
So that is one thing that Carp Cranium has. And of course, we can never forget Minior with Shell Smash. Of course,
Yeah,
always terrifying, always a threat, always something you have to be prepared for.
it's been so threatening this season.
It's weird. It either does great or it just gets bodied.
Yep. That's what I've been seeing just this whole season when I've been looking at Shaymin. It's been doing amazing or it's been doing not great. And I can respect that. I like that.
I want to quickly come back to Terra Ice on Electrode as well. The only two ice resists on this team are Alola, who is not taking a Thunderbolt under any circumstances, or a grassy terrain boosted grass move. And then Incineroar, which I'm gonna be honest, Incineroar's overall matchup is like kind of weird. Like Darkspun kind of sits on it. T-Tar, like it does get close combat for T-Tar, but T-Tar's 1 point faster. Swampert kind of comes in on it, so it's weird because like on the flip side though, Incineroar is really good against Fortress. It's good against Vileplume. It's good against Houndstone, depending on the set. Espeon. So it's a very polarizing Pokemon this week.
Yeah. And even if Carparian wanted to set up a lot of hazards with like Lamora or something, Fortress can just rapid spin it away.
Let's talk about Cinderace with Court Change or Espeon with Magic Bounce.
Yeah, no, it's not looking good.
So I'm gonna give this one to Toob Vs, but I do want to say if Flygon can get a Dragon Dance or two up, I would want to say 2 because Flygon is kind of weak offensively. It only has base 100 attack. But if Minior can get shields down plus a Shell Smash, we got to get both because its attack stat is low before shields down.
That's true.
I think it could put in some work, but as always, have to be careful of Mirror Herbs.
Yeah.
Mirror Herb Cinderace would not be fun.
The thing with this is like the win cons are right there, but I think Toob Vs just has a lot more threats.
It's immediate threats as compared to where Carps need to set up.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Aryan versus Truck. Aryan's Terras are Noivern with Flying Dragon Normal, and Electivire with Electric Flying Ice. Truckjud's Terras are Comfey with Fairy Steel Ground, and Crocolore with Fire, Water, and Fairy. Truckjud made some adjustments to their team this week. They dropped Dragalge, Mesprit, and Galvantula, and then picked up Garganackle, Hisui, and Quillfish, and Goodra this week, which I don't think looks too bad, because I was talking to them about these changes. One thing is it makes their team a little bit ground weak, just a little bit. But I don't think it's anything like too crazy because they do still have 2 flying types and Meowscarada, as well as Crocolore, which will pretty much Terra every week, which I think Terra. Ooh, it's weird. Terra Water, but Terra Fairy. Which one do you think on Truck or on Crocalor looks good this week? Because they're both like
They're both they're both pretty good.
but they both get
Um,
threatened by something. Like if you Terra Water,
yeah,
Electivire and Kyurem, but if you Terra Fairy, Metagross.
I'm gonna I'm gonna just give out what I'm going to think. This is what I think about this matchup. This is what I'm trying to say. Uh, Honestly, Comfy doesn't even look bad at all. I think if this thing gets out of hand, it can just go crazy on this team with Terra Ground.
Actually, now that you say that, you're absolutely correct because the only two Fairy resists are weak to ground in Metagross and Toxapex.
And I'm pretty sure they both get outsped. I'm not sure. I have not seen
They do. Comfey's
Comfy's
base
speed
100
tier.
speed.
Yeah, so that's really gonna be rough for Aryan to deal with. But on Aryan's side, Kyurem's mix of freeze dry and earth power just hit everything.
Absolutely.
So I personally think it's just whichever gets out of hand first is going to win.
I feel like Primarina can probably eat a freeze dry even from a Specs Kyurem because Primarina has very good natural speed F.
Yeah.
So if he can keep Primarina healthy, I do think that that is an option. And I mean, Comfey too does still have triage to be able to hit
Yeah.
Kyurem, with priority.
Triage is just such a good ability. It just goes so hard in every single. Like, I've looked at a few of these matchups, and I was like, damn, Comfy just does so good.
It does.
And
it goes
they
crazy.
and they've definitely shown it throughout the season, as far as I know.
Something else that looks really good offensively is Goldango. I think like a Choice Scarf Goldango would put in some work this week.
Yep.
Because the things that resist Ghost in, well, I don't want to say this resists, but fucking Cryogonal is really good Spit F, and then Mandibuzz resists, and then Knuckle Stack resists, but Make It Rain hits all of those very well.
Yeah, Golden Go. It's just that Pokemon of all time. That's all I gotta say. It's just so good.
I think this is pretty evenly matched. I do think the Comfey gives Truck Judd a little bit of a advantage. That's crazy that I totally overlooked that. I was looking at how good Crocalor was defensively here with Terra, that I totally overlooked how good Comfey was offensively.
Funny enough, I didn't even look at Crocalor.
It looks pretty good. If you give it like Terra Fairy, it shuts down a lot of stuff, but I definitely think going Terra on Comfey is infinitely better here.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Garganacle's also pretty threatening with Salt Cure this week. There's a lot of things that on Aryan's team that don't like Salt Cure.
Oh yeah. You can't really look past Meowscarada either. Like, it just hits everything.
Yeah, with Triple Axle now, it's crazy.
Oh, why did they give it Triple Axle? It does not need it.
They were like, oh, Meowscarada is already one of the strongest starters. Let's just make it stronger.
Literally. That's absolutely insane to me. And then it doesn't get walled by Gliscor then, and Toxapex just gets hit by knockoffs and crits from Meowscarada, and then there's even more threats like Garganacle's Salt Cure, and the list goes on.
Yep. Yeah, I think I'm going to give this one to Truck Judd, but it'll be close, and I think Kyurem can do some shenanigans this week. I'm not really worried about Spectrier because Goodra and Garganacl, so...
Yeah, it's not looking great. I think it can get out of hand if played correctly, but I just don't think it's gonna be very good. Very even matchup. I'm really excited to see this one.
Our final matchup of today is Wolf versus Britt Bellina. Wolf's Terras are Oricorio with Flying Ice Fairy and Blastoise with Water Ice Dark. And then Britt Bellina has Cinccino with Normal Ghost Fighting and Grumpig with Psychic Fairy and Poison. very close speed tiers all the way down the list. I mean, not all the way down, but I mean, most of the way down. These speed tiers are so even, with Wolf coming out on top just barely, which I think is going to end up mattering quite a bit here, I want to say. Valiant is a demon this week.
Definitely. I think it's hard to say if anyone has an advantage just looking at the matchup. Like, Excalibur can just click buttons on Wolf's team, but then Iron Valiant can just click buttons on Britt's team.
Umbreon can probably eat a hit from Excalibur, maybe 2 if it hasn't set up, depending. I'm not 100% sure.
I'm looking more at Wolf's team. That Cleavor is really good. Like,
I was just looking at that.
Britt's team is pretty rocks weak. I was looking at Tinkaton honestly, and it might do pretty good against the Iron Valiant.
Yeah,
and
Palossand just switches in.
Yeah, true. And doesn't do too bad against Cleavor or anything either. Getting access to knockoff too is pretty good.
I've used Tinkaton in the past. It's got a good typing. It's got a decent support move pool. It's just so weak offensively. I mean, like, you would think with Gigaton Hammer being 160 base power that it does some damage, but with its attack stat being as low as it is, I think it's like 97 or something like that, maybe lower. Oh, sorry, it is 70. It is 75. I threw it a bone, and wow, yeah, like, it's doing fucking nothing. Just generally, you know, it's
unfortunate, but that's how it is with Tinkaton. But I think support wise, I think it can do pretty good. But also having access to in for Britt Bellina's team, it can create some threats for Wolf's team.
This is going to be such an even matchup, and it's going to, like you've said previously, it's going to come down to who can get kind of set up first. Like, if that Valiant can get, like, a Swords Dance up, it goes crazy. But if Britt can get Excalibur with, like, a Dragon Dance or a Skill Shot speed boost, it's looking pretty good for Britt.
Definitely. Late game, Valiant just looks so good, but it needs to have the right moveset, I think. Which is kind of hard to... well, it's not super hard to to see, but
I already got a move set for it.
Yeah.
Actually, that one gets walled by Grand Ball. I was gonna say my favorite set on Valiant is Swords Dance Encore.
I hate that set.
Goated set. One of my favorites. And I was gonna say Close Combat and Knockoff does really well, but it's walled by Grand Ball.
I think there's one Pokemon here that I think we could have looked at a little more. Ogerpon.
Which
Wellspring.
one?
Wellspring.
Yeah.
If we can get like a boost off from for speed or in a Swords Dance or something, with which I think it can do with Aurora Veil support, it can just click so hard on this team. There's not much that'll resist the moves that it has, but it has to run the right moves to hit the right Pokemon that they think is going to come to this
I
matchup.
honestly think it can just... I mean, like, Haxorus can eat hits, but a set of Swords Dance, Trailblaze, Ivy Cudgel, and then, like, Power Whip or Hornleech, whatever, you know, they want to run, just looks crazy.
Yeah. And it's hard for Haxorus to take a lot of hits, too.
Yeah, and I mean, when things like Volibee, Granbull, Tinkaton, Ninetales are all there, the Haxorus ain't doing shit.
Yeah, it's not happening.
Ooh, this is an interesting game here. And it sucks. Wolf's Ogerpon really can't do crap with Skeledirge sitting there.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it does good against the rest of the team, but Skeledirge just kind of sits on it.
Oh, I'm gonna say... Oh, go ahead.
I'm gonna mention Ogerpon's move pool is just so crazy. So it can probably hit it well with like some other moves like knock off and like stomping tantrum.
But those
But
aren't gonna do enough to break through.
still, it's not gonna break through. Yeah, it's just lucky it can't get burnt from it. That's what I'm thinking.
True.
Actually, now that I think about it, Mold Breaker.
He can sword stance up past.
He can sword stance up past. That
Interesting. I still think Skeletor
I
wins
just
that 1v1 though.
yeah, I think so, but I just had to think about that for a moment. Ogerpon, both of them look pretty good as well. This Pokemon, man. I had
Who
to
do you
I had to
who do you think wins
I had to
this
fight
one?
it like 3 weeks in a row. Sorry, I'm getting off track. It's hard to say. I think I think Wolf has it slightly just because Iron Valiant exists.
I was gonna say the same with it. Honestly, only because it's like one speed point faster. Do I think it has such a good matchup? Because with like booster energy, you don't have to be scared of a +1 like Centino after tidy up or whatever. So
Yeah,
I think Wolf has this. Barely though, and it's got to be careful of the Ogerpon Wellsprings and things like that. Obviously, Aurora Veil is going to be a huge problem, but I think Wolf can get past it.
I think so.
All right, that is the Week 7 Pickems for the Shaymin division of the VDL. If you enjoyed, be sure to drop a like, subscribe. We just have this week and next week until playoffs, so we're getting real close. Everyone, buckle in and do your best. Hopefully we can see some good battles before then. You got anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's it.
All right, if you enjoyed, drop a like, subscribe, and I will see you guys all later. Peace.
Goodbye.